morning, Andre. I'm so glad to see y'all. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Huddle on Friday with your guest hosts. Where'd y'all go? There you are. Okay. Tara and Kathryn, we are going to be your hosts today, and we're going to be talking about loneliness. It's not just for leaders anymore. And yeah, we think this is important for everybody, whether an entrepreneur, whether in corporate. It feels like the higher up you go or the more responsibility you have, a lot of times it can be lonely at the top, as they say. So Tara's going to kick us off with some thoughts about this. She's been doing a little bit of research and wants to get us started.
Yeah, thank you. I think we came up with this topic because for years, you would hear this little topic, this little kind of quote, it's lonely at the top. It's lonely at the top. But the topic of, I've been really introspective about the word loneliness lately because it makes me rather emotional. And I think I've finally figured out why I feel so emotional around the word loneliness. And it is because I had years of being lonely and I don't think I was aware of it. And so now when I think about it, it makes me just want to open my heart and my arms and my home to every human being walking around this earth, because there is an epidemic of loneliness and isolation in this country that our U.S. Surgeon General is taking head on. We could spend the rest of this huddle talking about how we got here, which I have some strong opinions about, but I think what would be more important is what we're going to do about it, especially as leaders, because if we have the ability to impact and influence anyone, that makes us a leader. So I will say that the loneliest time in my life was when my house was full. And I was in a marriage that I wanted to be out of. And I would go out into community events, soccer games, cheerleading competitions, whatever, my kids were charging me to do at the moment. But I never really let anyone see me. I was nice. How are you? You look so good. I love your new shirt. Doing all the things, showing up with a smile on my face. But I really wasn't making deep connections. The reason why I felt so emotional about it now is because of the connections I have in my life today. And I see so clearly how powerful they are. The people that I do let see me and help me and know me. It is truly the greatest gift on earth. I mean, starting certainly with the relationship with my now husband, but with people like you, Kathryn, and every one of you here on the Daily Huddle that shows up with vulnerability. It is a gift beyond measure. So I do have some really powerful information written by the U.S. Surgeon General, which I would love to share, but I don't want to do that yet. I want to throw it to you, Kathryn, and see what your thoughts and feelings are around the word loneliness as it relates to leadership and as it relates to how we're all navigating life.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things interesting, you said that the loneliest time was when your house was full. I think it's important to note that, being alone and being lonely are two very different things. And I think the leadership piece of it, like when you're in a professional role and feeling lonely is really, I think it can be really different than feeling lonely personally, So the other thing that you said is that when we make ourselves vulnerable, that's when the real connection happens. We know that, we usually are on Tuesdays talking about relationships and communications, but I get curious, like, how do you do that at work in a professional role? Like, how do you need to go find other support, of people who aren't so connected? But then it's like you have to build vulnerability where you are, or else you really won't have even a team. If you're leading a team or on a team, you're not going to have the connection. It's not going to, I just think it can be a really challenging place to navigate when you're at work. Like, I know for me, like I've talked about this, I recently got a new role and my relationships have changed because some of the people who I was peers with may report to me or, I may just be in a different department than others. And that's been really hard. And so when the dynamic changes, now I can't have the same conversations. But we used to be peers, we were friends, we were colleagues, we could talk about whatever, it was fine. Now I
Mhm.
have a different lens. And like, how do I bring that? And I'll tell you, I don't really know the answer, but one of the things that's really helped is being really honest and transparent and saying, I'm really missing the relationship we used to have. I did this recently with a colleague who now we can't talk about the same things because one of our peers, it's just different relationships.
Mhm.
And I said, I just want to check in with you. And I can't say a lot because, everything's different and, I have different boundaries and,
You're the boss.
yeah. And but I still just wanted to check in with you. So you can say whatever you want. I may not respond, but just know that that's not because I'm not wanting to be open and vulnerable, but I'll say what I can. And that really does open the space, as long it's like designing, we call it the designing the alliance in coaching. It's like
Mhm.
getting clear about what we're talking about, what are the boundaries and what are the parameters. And I feel like that opens space for people to be more vulnerable. Because if you're navigating something like, "Ooh, I don't know if I should say that," or, "Ooh, I'm not sure what our relationship is," or, "Ooh, how am I gonna," that's all felt.
Right, right. And with the parameters that HR puts on us today, it seems like we have to, it makes me nervous for you in a corporate setting. I mean, when we're at FemFort with our group of women, there's no repercussions to anything that we might choose to share or not. Not anything legal anyway, but so let's say a little bit more about that, because one of the things you said, Kathryn, was that you said, I'm checking in with you and I might not be able to respond. So in the way that I might have liked to, that doesn't feel good. But I see your issue. I mean, okay, I'm going to
Reality.
listen, but I'm not going to say anything. And then I think sometimes that's just what people need, is for us to listen and hush.
Right. Well, I think that's a lot of the point is like, it depends on what the nature of the conversation is, but most people really want, they're wanting to get something off their chest or get information for themselves. It's usually self-focused.
Right.
I did want to have that conversation because I was nervous about the relationship we had and I wanted to check in. So I think that part is fine. I also want to note too the piece about not being able to say things, and it does put a strain, or it can put a strain in the corporate setting, and it's designed to protect people, you know. And I think it's just so worth mentioning that even, I mean, and that's something that I have said actually, I'm sure if the roles were reversed, you would appreciate the privacy.
Hmm.
People want to know information for their own selves. It feels good. It settles our soul. But if it's you who people are wanting information about, it's like, you'd appreciate the privacy. So
That's
I,
a great reminder. I'm glad you brought that up, because
yeah,
I do probably have a little bit more frustration around it. I feel like this has become such a litigious society that we're all fearful of, we say the wrong thing, look the wrong way, and then next thing you know, there's a lawsuit. So thank you for that reminder.
yeah, I think it's in its nature. At least that's how I see it. It doesn't come from that. And then it can always go to that where, it can be used in that way, in a litigious way. Um, yeah. And going back to the loneliness, it's lonely at the top. I think sometimes the hardest thing is just what we talked about. Like there's a truth. Like you said, it feels terrible to be able to say, well, I'm not going to respond. You say whatever you want. I'm not going to respond. But that is the reality. And so acknowledging the reality that we're in, whatever that is,
Hmm.
I think can be a really powerful one. Like the reality is I really want to have this great conversation with you like we used to, go grab a glass of wine and just blab on. And the reality is we can't, not in
Yeah.
that way. So let's find some other way to connect. And, I just think there's opportunities there to find other ways to connect.
How do you respond to this? Because I'm thinking back to when I was put into a VP role and I had all of a sudden a team of guys reporting to me. Um, and at first they were very standoffish. I mean, they were my friends. Next thing, it felt like they weren't my friends.
Mhm.
But then just the politics of corporate, I feel like there was a lot of ass kissing, like a lot of disingenuous kissing up. I can't stand it. That made me feel lonely. I was like thinking to myself, you don't even mean what you're saying. These are salespeople, first of all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're kind of masters at charisma. But yeah, how do you navigate that?
Well, I think whether it's ass kissing or somebody you can tell is just trying to climb a corporate ladder or they're not being honest about something, that is all felt.
Mhm.
And again, I mean, the way that I would navigate that is do my best to cut to the chase.
Yeah.
It feels like you're a different person when you're over here with this person than you are with me, or when we're all together or when we're alone. Like, what's that about? Is there something you're wanting to get from that person? Like, really just cut to the chase and see if you can be honest in a way that's kind. And the reality is, speaking back to like, sometimes you have to acknowledge the reality we're in. That's one of the realities. Sometimes you're not going to feel connected to those people.
Yeah.
If they're not able to be open and transparent, then that relationship isn't going to feel,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah. One thing I learned through that was guiding someone to be honest in a setting that didn't involve me actually was a really great learning moment. So the folks that would tend to like tell little white lies or just show up and say what they think you want to hear. I remember one of these gentlemen that reported to me was having a situation with a sales rep. He was a sales manager. I don't remember the details. I wish that I could because it would make the story better. But I remember this exact conversation. There was something that he felt like he couldn't let the sales rep know. I think he screwed up something. He's like, well, I wouldn't tell him that. Like, are you crazy? And I said, yes, tell him exactly that. That's an opportunity to build trust by sharing whatever the mistake that he made was, absolutely tell him
yeah.
and just ask for forgiveness and imagine the trust that builds. And
Mhm.
so to me, we're getting at the heart of what is the antidote to loneliness. And I
I
think
think
it's honesty.
that's exactly right. I've played with that because I used to, for a long time, for whatever reason, would do that. Like there would be a truth and I was nervous to say it. I was scared I was going to get in trouble. They were going to hate me, lots of, like lack of confidence, all of that. So I would take the truth and I would fluff it up with a bunch of
Mhm.
stuff around it and it wouldn't really land. And I've been playing with like actually say the direct truth. It is so much better. And that is connection, just like you're saying, in and of itself. Like that builds connection right in that moment. It's like people can feel that. Like,
Mhm.
oh, and thank you. And every single time people say thank you for being honest, even if it's a hard truth. It's like the only thing people want. Brene Brown says, clarity is kindness.
Yeah.
When you murk it up with a bunch of other stuff, that's not clear. And then people have to figure it out and it feels awkward. So yeah, I think you're right. I think, and I think in addition to honesty, if we're talking about the antidote to loneliness, it is letting your guard down. It's
Hmm.
being vulnerable and being willing to be seen.
Yeah. Um, it makes me think about, and I know you hear me mention this a lot, but the study on happiness that was launched at Harvard back in the 1930s, there's a whole book on it now, where they talk about loneliness being where the people that are the least happy are the most lonely. And so the answer to that is not surrounding yourself by people.
Mm-hmm.
It's about depth and quality of relationship. And some of the happiest people, they're not necessarily social. So I don't think that's what we're saying here. I think we're saying think about the quality of relationships. How deeply can you breathe with the people in your life?
Mm-hmm.
Let your hair down. To me, that's beauty.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, I also I think I just want to throw this out there because I don't want to focus on this, but I do want to think a little bit about how we've gotten here as a society,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's helpful. I feel like it's helpful to be compassionate, especially with younger generations,
Mm-hmm.
where we tend to damn them. They're all anxiety ridden. They're always having their head in their phones. We did that to them. We are the ones that innovated the technology and made the addictive products that are so easily accessible to where they've not learned the skills to sit without a phone, without a vape, without marijuana, without caffeine, and just connect. And so if we see something barreling toward us that we're concerned about, I think that we are the ones that need to take the opportunity to show up with compassion for people that don't seem to be able to socialize comfortably and help them to understand what we're talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see it coming from?
I think that I think Yeah, I think technology and social media is one place because people think that they're getting that connection in there, but it actually really isn't connection. And then to be able to hide behind a screen, if I feel uncomfortable and I want to hide behind a screen or I don't want to go out and I want to be connected, I can do that. Whereas before, I mean, there were life circumstances that threw us out in public with people all the time, you know? So I think that's part of it. I do think COVID had a lot to do with it. The
Mhm.
world changed and it became a lot easier to do things remotely, you know,
Mm.
not as much with people. Um, and I wanted to say one thing about the compassion piece. I spoke to a friend yesterday who um, has been volunteering with the Red Cross, and they sent her to Maui after the big fire that burned 30% of the island.
Mm.
And she talked about the hardships that she experienced and the people that were in front of her and the things that she dealt with. And, you know, they'd lost everything. They had no money and they were, you know, getting tax notices for their properties that were destroyed and they had no savings. And, you know, there was mental illness. And she said, you know, I learned a lot about my leadership. And one of the things that the Red Cross talks about is being relentlessly kind. And I
I love that.
phrase, relentlessly kind. And of course, you know, and even in our coaching model, we talk a lot about how to do that and how to be there for other people and how to listen and how to connect, but relentlessly kind. That said, you be kind no matter what they've just done, no matter what they've just said. Doesn't mean boundaries are a separate topic. It doesn't mean you get to be walked all over. And you can be kind relentlessly. So I just thought that was really wonderful that regardless of what anyone's going through, you know, and that even can be lonely. You're at the top, you're dealing with people who are beneath you, who are, you know, reporting to you, and you have all these things. And it's like, be relentlessly kind. How far will that go?
I want to share something about the word kindness. And then I would love to hear what others are thinking about this topic. But it is ironic that you say this because there's even a part in my book about this. My first husband, Billy, whom I adore to this day, um, this was years and years ago. I was with my friend Kathleen and Tim and Billy, and we were driving to a marathon where he and Kathleen ran the marathon, where I was on the sidelines with cigarettes and coffee. This was a long time ago.
Recording.
Anyway, I have this habit of on long road trips asking these questions to get these great conversations going. And the question was, what do you want to be known for? And I think like Tim made some joke like a rich son of a bitch, and Kathleen said like music and beer, and I don't even know what I said. But when I asked Billy, I said, Billy, what do you want to be known for? And he said that I was kind. And in the moment, I thought, oh my God, that's so banal. That's so boring. Come on, that's it. And today, I celebrate that. Like, what matters more? So, thank you for bringing that in. And he is a very kind person. So, and that makes me feel not lonely when I think about it and embrace it.
Yeah, I love that.
Hey, Andrea, talk to us this morning.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. So when you guys were speaking about it, it triggered, remember, studies conducted that show the correlation between loneliness and two things. Lack of purpose, not just because you can be by yourself, but without a purpose, you feel lonely, and lack of belonging. We all, as humans, have a sense and an urge to belong to something greater than ourselves. So studies show that loneliness, even if it's by yourself, and if you don't have a purpose and an idea that you belong to something bigger than yourself, it actually triggers more so than not being connected with a person. Is the sense as an individual to belong to something larger than themselves. And of course, when we conducted this study was under when I was working directly with the Marine Corps in the military context, but it was the idea that the purpose, that if you have in deep roots about what you know who you are, you know what you can bring to the table, but also that you're going to bring that value to the group, the larger group that you belong to,
Hmm.
loneliness decreases. A sense of belonging and a sense of purpose increases by the minute when you have that in your mindset. So
Mm,
that triggers immediately.
I
What
love that.
what would you say to people
Mhm.
who may be listening and they want that sense of belonging, but they just simply don't know how to go about it? Like, where do they begin?
They probably need to begin evaluating what drives them to wake up every day, because that is in true nature, our purpose. What is the thing that makes you think on a daily basis that you deserve and want to be alive? I know I'm going in deep roots right now here, but it is something that and there are many tools available to try to find your purpose. When you find your purpose as an individual, you're going to find people who are similar in nature to you. So you find naturally that potential group of people that are aligned in the same kind of ideals and purpose that you are gravitating to. Then you find a sense of belonging. So it starts with that individual purpose.
Mm.
You find people similar to you. Potentially they're different backgrounds, different races, ethnicities, genders, but they all share a common sense of belonging. And but you need to start with your individual purpose.
That is great advice. I love that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good morning, Chase. It's good to see your hand up.
Grand Rising, thank you so much. Beautiful, intelligent, kind women. This is so powerful. I sang at a senior citizens home yesterday. I do it about 5 or 6 times a month. And I thought it was interesting that you brought the word kind up because, first of all, before I tell you the quick little anecdote that I listened to yesterday, I always believe that kindness starts with kindness. The glitch is that if you have not been treated kindly, you don't feel that others deserve your kindness. And that can drip off on lots of people that you don't even know. However, it's like eating or drinking the medicine that you hate. You know that after you take it, you'll feel a lot better. And yesterday, I left not feeling the best I would normally feel. And I cultivate my feeling great every day. And I didn't feel that great aesthetically. I had to stay at a friend's house because I didn't make it back to my house. So I woke up and someone called me to do this gig at the last minute. So I was like, oh, I'm not dressed the right way. Da-da-da. Okay, just go, do your thing. Be happy, be positive, spread your magic, relax. It's going to be okay. On the way to doing the gig, a guy said to me, hey, man, you're looking great, man. This is a great outfit. You look amazing. And I said, thanks, bro. I appreciate you. He said, no, I appreciate you. I got to look out for you, my brother. And he just walked away. And I was like, wow. So then when I went to the gig, I sang for like 40 or 50 people. I was a roving singer. I did a song in each room. And when I was leaving one of the rooms, I was outside crossing off that I had gone in the room. And I heard a lady say, wow, he was such a kind young man, wasn't he? I really liked him. What a great singer. And I went, wow. And then when I left, another guy came up to me, a completely different guy at a light and said, I like that coat, man. You're looking really smooth today. And I was like, wow. And so I say all that to say, I believe that the key to being kind or the key to lifting others is just noticing people. It leaves an anchor in our soul when we notice someone and we don't realize how powerful it is. Here I am the next day talking about this random guy or these random guys, both men, both, I believe, heterosexual men that would normally not be speaking to another guy that way. I don't know. I'm just assuming. But they both came up to me in a very authentic way. And that comment inside the place was incredible. And it sustained me in such a huge way that I can't even describe it to you.
I think that's great. Thank you, Chase. I think what you're saying is so true, that another antidote to loneliness is noticing people. It's all we really want, is that belonging, and to just be seen and to be noticed and heard is hugely profound for most people. So thank you for bringing that. It's so true. Laura.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this conversation. So much nuggets. But I've worked as a nurse in long-term care. And kindness, when you're working with the elderly, you have to notice. You got to notice, you got to practice with kindness. and love, because I've experienced the healing, how healing it is to be seen, to be noticed. But
Mm.
I also love when you said that the antidote to loneliness is honest. I do have many acquaintances all over the place, but I have very few close friends. And these are friends that I've developed, I say spiritually, because of honesty, because of trust. I do remember going through burnout at my job, and I didn't, most people would not know because I didn't trust most people anyway. And there was a day when I wanted to walk off the job. One of the doctors had a conversation with me based on trust, and I opened up to him. I
Hmm.
opened up to him. And until today, I mean, we call each other and check on each other. And, the key to honesty is building trust. And that's what I love.
Mm.
Thank you so much.
So true. Thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing that. Yeah, sometimes I think we see the opposite of honesty as lying. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about being open and transparent and sharing our truth, not our privacy, but our truth. And those are different. So thank you so much. Hey, Florence.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And this is a wonderful conversation. And what I'd like to say, I really wanted to address like being a superior to the people who were once friends. I saw it in my job where um, some people, well, one particular person was very angry that someone whom she considered a friend, but who was in a superior position, did not like stand up for her when she was being disciplined and all of this. But I think in that particular situation, how I saw it is that she was actually being demanding something unfair of the other person. And I think that if they could have had an honest conversation, the superior person, even though they're friends, could have asked her, "What do you need from me in this moment?" And just to say, let's look at this situation, where you are, where I am. Let's see what we're dealing with. And if they could have had an honest conversation, I think the anger that the person, the subordinate was feeling towards the um, superior person was not going to be so much, but they never had a conversation. And the one who was disciplined was I think she's still angry at the person in that position. I feel she was trying to put that person, though. I think she was unfairly putting that person in a compromising situation, because her action, she needed to examine her action and know that she could have made that person lose their job too. And then it would have been two of them in the situation. So I think that we can ask people, what do you need from me at this moment, and see how we can come to some sort of, conclusion in that situation.
I think you're so right, Florence. And I also think that's all you can do. The other person has to choose to step in and meet you there. We all have to take responsibility for our own part. So I think you're so right. And sometimes that's hard. When we do our best, we step in and the other person doesn't meet us there.
Yeah. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Because that's all we can do.
Thank you.
Kathryn, before I close us out, what's our grand takeaway? What's your grand takeaway?
We don't have to be lonely. We
Yeah.
don't. That's within our power too. To be vulnerable, take that onto yourself. If you feel lonely, that's your responsibility to go and be vulnerable with somebody else and open up. And it may not work the first time. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to be lonely.
Thank you. I think for me too is first recognizing that maybe you are lonely, because I know for many years I didn't see it. I was just surrounded by people, busy, talking all day to people all the time. It was tiring.
Yeah.
So let's close out with our tenets. And I am especially feel called to start with love today, because I feel so much love right here on a screen. It's better, it's not in person, but it surely is the next best thing. So thank you all for showing up with love. Let's continue to take that into the world. And remember to give of your kindness. Focus on kindness this week and give of your kindness. And don't take it all too seriously. Remember to laugh out loud, throw your head back and laugh. Let those endorphins give you energy so that when it's time to rest, you can rest well. Fill your body with mostly plants. Try to stress less by connecting with others. And of course, don't forget to keep that body moving. We are normally, Kathryn and I, on Tuesdays on the Daily Huddle, but today is Friday. And we hope to see you all next week, every day from 9 to 9:30 Eastern.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great talk. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you all so